So we have around 4 presentations in this section, and you'll excuse me for wearing the mask because I'm sitting in my office. And congratulations to the organizers for organizing this conference on the virtual platform and bringing us all together from east, west, north, and south. And the first presentation we have by Dr. Chandrasekhar Parveen,
Yes,
and
madam.
he is
Yes, ma'am.
us by the paper presenters that will have a paper presentation for 10 minutes, followed by 5 minutes of question answer session. Is it okay with all the presenters?
yes, ma'am. Yes, no problem.
So it's for Dr. Chandrasekhar, who will be making a presentation, English language for tribal empowerment issues in pedagogy, a very relevant theme in the present context, and I'm looking forward to hear from you because we also have the tribals in Jammu and Kashmir, and we are also planning how to reach out to them in context of education.
Good afternoon, respected chair, participants. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to present the paper. My topic is from the topic area Teaching and Learning for Empowerment. The title, as you can see, is English Language for Tribal Empowerment. Now, I'm a retired principal of a teacher training college, and this is based on a study which I have conducted. I'll begin by telling you something about the background of the study. I'll tell you something about the rationale for the study, the research questions, the methodology, the population sample procedure, and findings. As you all know, as per the 2001 census, 8% of tribals, of the population is tribals in India. You can see, you just look at this visual, there are tribes with different kinds of developmental stages. You can see look at the picture, in the third picture, one man who is wearing a shirt as though he is like a non-tribal. Look at the girl below, one has disheveled hair, the second row, here the disheveled hair, and the other person probably she has been in contact with non-tribals and she's dressed almost like a non-tribal. So it varies. In fact, in one of our own presentations, the keynote speaker Vachuki said that tribals have their own oral culture and history, and we have to treat it. So it's so important for us. Now, but there are tribals who refuse to come into contact with the non-tribals and lead a separate life. But we have the tribal integrated tribal development projects, which sees to it that the basic development that tribes in India deserve is looked into. So this is one part of the background. Then this is a study related to education. In 1986, in the National Education Policy, it specified that we have to produce instructional materials for tribal school children. Now, in 1998, the second language acquisition program was introduced in Kerala state. Then a new revised curriculum came up. And this second language acquisition program drew heavily from Noam Chomsky's work. Now, a study conducted in 2012 found that learners have adjustment problems with the school curriculum, even the way in which English is taught. So this is the background to my study. And why I'm really interested in studying is because since 2000, several schemes were set up by the government of India for improvement of the tribal economy and the tribal education. As you can see, for education, it was pre-metric scholarship, top scholarship, national overseas scholarship, all these were introduced. And that was also the time when the mobile phone was slowly entering. It is a revolution because, even the tribals started getting mobile phones. That means remote villages away from remote tribal hamlets were now becoming accessible. Now, then what happened? The tribal youths who were getting connected with the non-tribals began to realize that English is a language of empowerment. So but there is one big problem. English language has a cultural baggage. Tribes have their own culture. So how was English taught? I kept wondering. This is what prompted me to undertake the study. So these are my research questions. Did tribal school teachers employ strategies to foster communication in English? Were English learning materials context specific? And where the teachers adapt to transacting the curriculum in the tribal setting? These are three questions I mentioned. I've mentioned more in my paper, but because of time constraint, I'm just focusing on these three. And how did I do? Traditional empirical study of documents, then interviews with teachers and tribals. I had visited them. Data collected through observation and was then corroborated with the findings I saw in the documents and the studies. Now, some which I found was these. The NCRT, they themselves conducted a study, and then they found that the listening, speaking, reading, writing, the main important language skills, there was no integration with other subjects also. In fact, I met a few teachers who were called by in RI Mysore to develop materials because they found that the material being used was unsuitable. It happened in RI Mysore. I engaged myself in the workshop. Another thing is that the tribal language is essentially different from English. There is little scope for interaction. We all know that it is through interaction that you learn. Tribals seldom use English, and this affected the acquisition of English. Now, what is important about the second language acquisition program being introduced in Kerala, peer interaction was important. But then learners have to interact, only then language learning happens. Now, these children were not interested in using English, though the teachers did try their best, but this was not happening. It means language learning was not happening. These are visuals which tell you there are single teacher schools, as this is how they sit and they learn. But then what is important? You go to grade 8, studies have found there are students who are unable to read and write. Look at the school structure. The formal school structure is not suitable for first generation learners or even learners who come from first generation families where their parents are not educated. They go back home, there's no one to help them out. Relatives don't know. And teachers, of course, textbooks have their own learning outcome. But then, a teacher teaching in the tribal area has to match it with the learner needs. What is the purpose of which he is going to learn English? And then this was never done. And more importantly, qualified teachers who know the tribal culture and who could adapt and teach them accordingly were missing. Any teacher who gets posted in the tribal area will immediately take leave, come back. So education was not happening properly. But there are certain limitations to my study. I've relied heavily on secondary data. As you all know, during the COVID season, there was travel restriction. I couldn't go there and collect. I cannot fully generalize on it. But then there are further studies can be done. We all have seen during the COVID season, ICT was being explored for teaching. And not only that, because the smartphone is available, now it is possible to teach using the smartphone also. So this is a possibility. So now I would like to conclude by stating the State of the World's Indigenous Peoples Education Report. Please read. It's a means of in a multi-dimensional and complex long-term process. It depends on the conditions of the region, country, and community. We have several tribes in India. If you want transformation to happen, it means good planning. It's complex. It is not easy, and we have to address this. Okay? These are select references. And so, thank you.